Texas Governor Greg Abbott has now ordered the State Department of Public Safety to conduct civil arrests of Democrats who did not show up for this afternoon's special legislative session in the Texas State House. Now, this is all part of the fight for control of the U.S. House of Representatives in next year's midterms, and it's playing out in dramatic fashion.
Members, a quorum is not present. The roll has been called, and a quorum has not been established.
Now, dozens of Democratic Texas state representatives skipped that special session that began and then, as you saw, was quickly adjourned just about an hour ago, actually fleeing the state in an attempt to block a Trump-led partisan redrawing of the state's congressional map, a redrawing that could potentially give Republicans 5 more U.S. seats in the midterms. And in response to Texas Democrats breaking quorum and stopping official state house business, the remaining state lawmakers passed a motion to allow the state house speaker to issue civil warrants for representatives who did not attend the special session. Texas Governor Greg Abbott also threatening to remove any lawmaker who did not show up when the state house convened last hour. State law allows a district court to determine whether a public official has, quote, abandoned their office, though that could become quite a messy, drawn-out process. Now, breaking quorum itself is not a crime, but if state lawmakers had remained in Texas, Abbott could technically order state troops to haul them to the Capitol. So where exactly have all the Democrats gone? Well, many of them have fled to states led by Democratic governors, including Illinois and New York, as those states are now exploring options on retaliating by redrawing their congressional maps in favor of Democrats. All of this appears to be building toward a gerrymandering arms race. Let's go straight to CNN's Ed Lavandera. He's outside the Texas Capitol building in Austin. Ed, what are you hearing from Texas State House members given the session that just adjourned without enough Democrats for a quorum?
Well, they've been ordered to reconvene tomorrow at 1 o'clock Central Time, but it doesn't appear that the outcome tomorrow will be any different from what we saw today, and that after a few minutes the House will quickly be forced to adjourn because there is not a quorum. From what we could tell, there were about 6 Democrats that did not break quorum. So of the 62 members, it appears about 56 have left the state, and that sent off a flurry of activity. The Speaker of the House immediately issuing the civil arrest warrants for those members, and shortly after that, the governor ordering DPS troopers to arrest these members and bring them back to the Capitol. But again, as you mentioned, these Democrats are in states like Illinois and New York, run by Democrats. That doesn't appear to be likely, but that increasing rhetoric of punishing the Democrats who have left the state seems to be something that we continue to hear from more and more Republican lawmakers here as they wait for Democrats to return. And Phil, we are in the middle of this 30-day special session, and there's about 2 weeks left of it. So Democrats would have to stay away that long. But in the end, it won't matter. Governor Greg Abbott could just simply call another session, and they have the votes to pass this redistricting bill. But what we've heard over and over from the Democrats who have left the state of Texas is that this is about ratcheting up pressure on Republicans, making it very difficult and painful as possible to pass this redistricting bill, and trying to spread the message across the country that they believe that the redistricting efforts here in Texas is a threat to democracy. We spoke with one of those lawmakers shortly after she touched down in New York last night.
Well, look, we saw that Republicans were not putting the priority of Texans before the priorities of Donald Trump. We had 8 or 9 hearings on these gerrymandered redistricting maps. We only had 2 hearings on flood recovery.
There are Republicans out there saying that you guys are cowards for leaving the state, that you're not doing your job. How do you respond to that?
I see it the other way around. I see it that my colleagues are the cowards. My colleagues were the cowards when they took Donald Trump's call and then voted all but 2 Republicans for his voucher scam. And then they were cowards again when they took another call from Donald Trump when he said, oh, we're just going to do a small change of the map, just 5 more seats.
So Phil, the question remains just how long are these Democrats willing to stay away from Texas to make this point on this redistricting bill? The last time they did this in 2021, it was nearly 40 days. It wasn't that long when it was last done in 2003, just under a week. But in both of those cases, ultimately, Republicans got what they were looking for in a change and the passing of a redistricting bill. Phil?
That's a great point. Ed Lavendera, great reporting as always. Thanks so much. Well, joining me now, Democratic Texas State Representative Linda Garcia. She's one of the Democrats who left the state of Texas. She's currently in Chicago. And I'll pose the question that our great colleague down in Texas was just asking in terms of how long is this going to go? When you talk to your colleagues, what are you guys thinking right now in terms of timeline here?
Well, right now we are prepared to stay here for 2 weeks. Obviously, we have to see what the move is after those 2 weeks, but we are all prepared to fight.
What is your reaction to the governor ordering civil arrests for you and your colleagues who did not attend the session today?
That doesn't bother me. That doesn't bother me at all. My constituents want me to take this quorum break. It is within our legal right. I was hired by the people in my district to do what is in their best interest, not what is in the best interest of Donald Trump and not what is in the best interest of Abbott.
To once again cite my very smart colleague, Ed Lavendera, who was speaking just before you, the outcome here, at least based on if past is precedent, seems to be pretty baked in. But the process that you guys are going through is clearly as much about garnering national attention, making sure people appreciate what's happening down there. I'm interested if you're concerned that this is turning into or could turn into a gerrymandering arms war of sorts, where Democratic states pursue the same exact thing that you're fighting right now down in Texas.
I think it's unfortunate that we have gotten to where we are today, but unfortunately, what Donald Trump and Greg Abbott are trying to do is unconstitutional in the state of Texas. And while I cannot control what happens in other states, I can only make sure that I am doing everything in my possibility here in my district for my constituents.
But would you like other states, particularly those with Democratic governors, to pursue a similar pathway, given kind of the scale of the fight that's started down in Texas?
I think those governors know what is best for their constituents and their state, and they will take appropriate actions.
One of the things that's been raised, particularly for you and some of your colleagues that have gone to Illinois isn't exactly a nonpartisan district-by-district state. It's quite a gerrymandered state towards the Democratic side, was just a couple of years ago signed into law by the current governor, J.B. Pritzker. How do you respond to people who point that out?
Well, I think that, the actions he took are within their constitution, within their right. That is very different from what is taking place in the state of Texas. So I think we all need to process that and understand the difference. This is illegal.
How so? And again, it's important. This is a point you're making. Can you elaborate on what the differences are? Because I think people don't know, understandably, the state by state kind of constitutions, how the statutes actually stand. What makes this different?
Sure. In the state of Texas, our Texas Constitution calls for redistricting every 10 years based on the census. We are not at the 10-year mark. We are halfway through the 10-year mark. And so not only are we redistricting from data that is incorrect, but we are also watering down the voices. When President Donald Trump calls for 5 congressional Republican districts, he is calling for the watered down voices of marginalized community members in those existing districts. And that is the difference.
A really important distinction there. I do want to ask, Governor Abbott said he will work to remove any state House member who did not show up for the special session today. That includes you. If this ends up being successful, Abbott could technically, I think, set up new elections to fill these empty seats. Are you concerned about what that may mean going forward?
As I mentioned earlier, I was not hired to take on this position for what Abbott wants me to do. I have to make sure that I do everything in my power today to represent my constituents. I'm not interested in being a lifelong politician. I am a mother. I am a, family member. I'm an entrepreneur. I am interested in representing the members of House District 107. That is what I am here for. So if I get removed, then I get removed, but at least I am clear in my conscience that I did everything I could in my power to stop this steal.
Texas State Representative Linda Garcia, very important times. Really appreciate your time with us today. Thank you.